Holly, you clearly didn't hear my response to that in Mining Australia, where I said that the Australia Institute, and we mean this, we take OH&S legislation very seriously, and we also take endangered species legislation very seriously. We will not be wearing any sharks, riding any sharks, or jumping any sharks anytime soon. So I'm an economist, I'm from the Australia Institute. I realise we're running a little bit over time. I don't know if the Q&A wants to set up. I don't need any slides, so, but I'll be brief. So I'm an economist, and like all economists, I like telling jokes, and here's one I made up myself. Why did the mining company cross the road? Well, they didn't. They built their own road, because otherwise they'd have to pay tax on their diesel. Actually, I wrote that joke for a PAC hearing and the lawyers asked me not to tell it, so glad it got a workout. Quite a lot of jokes make their way into the media about gas markets. It just seems to be that most people don't realise the punchlines. Maybe you've heard some of them. Has anyone heard the fracking went really well in America and it'll help the Australian economy too? No, I'm serious because I can't cover all issues today. Have you heard politicians say unconventional gas went really well in America, it'll go well here? A few people. What about New South Wales is running out of gas? A bit more on that one. New South Wales imports its gas from Victoria and Queensland, and that's a problem. Yeah, so most of these gags have been pretty well worn. We need gas for jobs. Right, so somebody's stolen most of my material, so I'll get back to talking about gas markets and economics. The punchline of the America comparison is, of course, Australia isn't America. Leaving aside the fact that you can light tap water in some places, which, I don't know, looks kind of cool actually, but leaving all that aside, unconventional gas and oil has done some very good things economically for the US. It has reduced oil and gas prices there a lot. It's meant they're far less reliant on imports from unsavoury people like Vladimir Putin and the Venezuelan guy who died, I just can't remember his name at the moment. Chavez. So in some ways, unconventional gas and oil has done some good things for the US economy. And the reason it's done those things is because the US is a very big market for gas and oil. And they were a market that they could never supply domestically before. They were always reliant on these imports. Australia's quite different. Australia's a very small market for gas and oil, and we've always had plenty of our own. So our prices have always been quite low on the East Coast. And so the big difference is unconventional gas and oil has taken the US from being an somewhat undersupplied or expensively supplied market to being a more cheaply supplied market. In Australia, because we're now going to start selling gas internationally through the lovely place that Jess showed you, the island up off Gladstone, because we're now going to be linked to Asian markets where gas is much more expensive, our gas becomes more expensive. So let's make sure we've got this 100% clear. In the US, fracking made gas cheaper. Here, it's going to make it more expensive. So the whole, it was good in America, it'll be good here bit, it fails on that bit. And that's kind of the punchline, but no one ever seems to laugh when it's written up in the Financial Review. So, leading on from that is the New South Wales is running out of gas idea. Of course we're not running out of gas. gas around here than anyone's ever seen, that anyone ever thought was going to be likely. What the problem is that we're going to have to pay for that gas, and we're going to pay that international price. It's not that we've run out of gas, you're just going to have to start paying international prices for it. And not so much you, because let's face it, no one cares about you. But people do care. Well, politicians tend to care more about manufacturers and chemical companies, and they're going to have to start paying international prices for their gas, and they're upset about it. And their lobby groups, particularly the AIG group, didn't see this coming. For years, these manufacturing lobby groups were saying, unconventional gas, that'll be sweet, look at what it did in America. Now, you guys already know that that's not the case, but it took the manufacturing lobby groups a really long time to go, oh no, hang on, our members are going to get shafted and we've been out barracking for this for years. What are we going to do? And so, what are they going to do? Well, as the singers showed us, they tend to lie and say, oh no, we weren't really into this and now we need a gas reservation policy, blah, blah, blah. So maybe we can talk about that in Q&A if people are interested. But, so getting back to it, New South Wales is not running out of gas. There's a heap of gas around. Gas prices are going to go up. There's no doubt about that. That's not a lie. The question is, will fracking somewhere around the Three Sisters push down gas prices? I've heard that said, well not the Three Sisters bit, but that might be an exaggeration. But I've heard it said that fracking in New South Wales and unconventional gas development in New South Wales will bring down gas prices. It can only... You haven't heard that? Has anyone heard that? Yes. Yeah. The problem is, now that we're part of the world market, to push those prices down, we'd have to affect the entire world's price. And Australia is becoming a really big gas exporter, particularly through the Northwest Shelf and Western Australia. We are becoming the major gas exporter in the world, but wells out the back of Gloucester are not going to drive down the world price of gas. They just can't do it. So we're not running out of gas, we're going to pay more for it, and digging more of it up here isn't going to help. So there's relatively little economic benefit, unless you happen to be a company that owns the licenses. From a New South Wales perspective, there's relatively little economic benefit in developing unconventional gas, as most of the benefit will flow to the gas company. And that's what Santos themselves say. Financial analysts have been very concerned about the state of Santos's plans, the state of their LNG export facilities and the pace at which that's been proceeding. And in a briefing note to a major financial analyst, the analysts write that Santos told them, don't worry about our export plans, the fact that that's behind schedule, not a problem. The whole point of this was to raise domestic prices and raise the value of our domestic assets. They said this. If I'd been more organised, I would have got it on a slide, but I went to the waterfall instead. So you'll just have to believe me or I can send it to you later. So we're not running out of gas. It is getting more expensive. Developing more of it here is not really going to help. Do we need it for jobs, is the question. I mean, I can't think of a more capital-intensive industry than the gas industry. What that means is they buy a lot of machinery, they buy a lot of pipes, they don't employ very many people. Once it's built, there's actually not very many jobs there. Only 15,000 people work in the gas sector in the country. We have a workforce of over 10 million people. I can't even say how small that is in percentage terms. It's so far under 1%, it's not funny. There just aren't jobs in gas. It's a capital-intensive industry that doesn't employ many people. Now, whether we should be reserving some of our gas for more labour-intensive manufacturing industries, that's another question that maybe I won't bang on about today because I know we're going over time. But I think we'll be taken to the stage for Q&A very shortly. So get your questions ready and I'll hand it back to Holly.